Hi, I'm Michael Howey, and this is my presentation for the indexing project for LIS 8230, Indexing and Abstracting. My initial thoughts on what to index for this project were to index a book. I even had a book, one that I had read a couple times, chosen. However, when I looked at the book, I realized it had a small sort of index. I came to the conclusion that I really wanted to index a source that had previously, at least to my knowledge, not been indexed. I felt that a clean slate approach was important to me because otherwise I might feel as if someone was watching over my shoulder as I indexed. At the same time, I was putting raised vegetable gardens in my yard, and I was consulting a magazine on how to put in a particular type of bed. This gave me the inspiration to index this magazine, Urban Farm. I chose Urban Farm magazine for a number of reasons. The first was that the magazine covers a subject that greatly interests me, urban farming. The second, I believe that it is a well-written and very informative magazine, something ideal for indexing. Third, Urban Farm has a consistent format. It does not change form from issue to issue, making it, in my mind, ideal to index. Fourth, and lastly, I thought it would be a challenge and a fun project to tackle. Also, I thought the magazine would benefit from being indexed. Since I frequently refer to back issues of Urban Farm, I would benefit also. I had two main decisions to make on how to index Urban Farm. The first was just exactly how many issues to index. I skimmed through a few of the issues to try to get an idea on how much information there was to index. It is one thing to read something for enjoyment and another for a specific reason. What I found was that each issue was chock full of information. I decided then to index a year, or 6 issues, of Urban Farm. This was a somewhat tricky decision because I had yet to receive the November-December issue. But since in the 2+ years I have been reading this magazine, the amount of content has been very consistent, I easily believe this would not be a problem. The other decision was just how much to index. Do I cross-reference every time a fruit or vegetable is mentioned in an article? I came to the conclusion that this would resolve itself when I actually started to index Urban Farm, and it did. To cross-reference any time, no matter how small a fruit or vegetable was mentioned, would be a daunting task, but also would not be a benefit to the user of the index. A cross-reference to, say, an article that said they grew an apple tree but provided no other information would be a waste of the user's time. I decided to index what the main theme of the articles were about. My approach to creating an index for Urban Farm changed from how I believed I would do it to how I actually did it. I decided that I would do the entire project on the computer. No notes scribbled on paper, those would be typed in. No note cards for cross-references. I would use multiple color-coded Word documents instead. Since I have never used note cards for cross-references, I am not sure if this was a good or bad idea. It did work out well for me though. What changed in my approach to indexing Urban Farm was how I exactly indexed it. I started indexing the first issue by using the table of contents. The table of contents is set up with articles, columns, and department sections. I thought that by following this guide, I would index more accurately, thoroughly, and quickly. Since articles need to be indexed a bit differently than columns or departments, I believe that by using this approach, it would be easier because I would be working on the same type of section until completed. In reality, I was quite wrong. What happened was that I was spending time flipping back and forth through the magazine, and this was very time-consuming and also very distracting. For the second issue, I changed my approach. I would index the magazine from front to cover, only using the table of contents if I questioned what section the article was in. This proved to be a much more efficient, concise, and accurate way to index. After indexing the first issue, I went to work on creating cross-references for it. This too proved to be a step that did not work well for me. Once I was entering to Syndex mode, I did not want to break out of that mode to do cross-references. Plus, stopping to create cross-references after each issue was somewhat arbitrary because I was indexing an entire year of Urban Farm. The biggest challenge was what exactly should be indexed and what exactly should not be indexed. There were some easy decisions on what not to include and some difficult ones on what to include. I made some mistakes on some things that in issue 1 looked not important enough to index but turned out to be important in issue 5. Another challenge was how accurate one has to be when indexing. It involved constant proofreading, watching the screen instead of reading the source while I typed, and lots of backspacing to fix my typing errors. Learning the Syndex software was another challenge. While I found the Syndex to be pretty intuitive, there were a few things that I found until I got used to them puzzling. Once I did get used to Syndex, I found it to be an easy and powerful program. The last challenge was just the sheer amount of work that is involved in creating an index. The ability to skim through an article to glean what is important about the article is a hard one to learn, especially if it's a topic that you're extremely interested in. I was helped out in this regard because I have read most of the articles in the Urban Farm issues that I indexed multiple times. One of the things I learned from this project was the ability to come to the main point of an article. This is so important in creating an accurate magazine index. There were many things that I wished to include in my index for Urban Farm, but in the end did not really belong. Another thing that I learned was how much time it takes in creating an index and how much Syndex helps out. I cannot imagine indexing anything and not using some sort of software program to help. The main thing that I took away from this project was, as I previously mentioned, the work involved in creating an index. To be honest, I had never really considered what it takes to create an index until taking this course. I have a new appreciation for those who are indexers. It takes a lot of discipline and a special talent to index a source well. In Indexing Books, Nancy Mulvaney wrote, "Book indexing is something you will either enjoy or detest. There is no little middle ground. You will have a knack for it or you won't. I do not believe that indexing can be taught." I don't know if I'm a born indexer, but I do know that I did not detest this project. Actually, I quite enjoyed it. The project gave me a whole lot of new knowledge on what it takes to index a book and gave me a new appreciation for people that do indexing. I'm Michael Howey, and thank you for taking the time to watch my presentation on creating an index for Urban Farm magazine.